In this video, we discuss the countdown to retirement checklist. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
There are so many people who've only scratched the surface when it comes to retirement. They may have the money part right, but they miss completely all of the other elements that makes the best retirement the best retirement. Recently, I was at a college football game and came upon someone who recognized me from the channel. His name was Benjamin Hayes. Ben walked up to me and after confirming I was who he thought I was, proceeded to talk to me both about the game and then the real reason why he came over, to talk about his big problem. Ben owned a small convenience store across from a high school in his hometown, which was a few hours away. And he had a wonderful business. He worked only Monday through Friday. He started right before school began, so 30 minutes before the opening bell. At lunchtime was a very busy time for him, and for about an hour after school. He didn't work nights, he didn't work weekends, but he had established this business and it was the go-to place for the high school crowd when they wanted to buy a snack or something else. Ben told me that he had fully funded his retirement account every year for the last few decades actually, and his house was nearly paid off. So he felt like he had been doing the right thing when it came to the money part. Ben was 10 years out from retirement and he didn't know how to pull it all together. There were a lot of loose ends, he said, and to make matters worse, if he were to pass away tomorrow, his spouse would not know what to do. She'd make some very bad decisions because he himself doesn't really know what to do. As it turns out, Ben's problems aren't unique. Millions of retirees go into retirement with a 401k, a sizable 401k in some cases, maybe even a pension. They know what to do about their health insurance. They might even know how to optimize their Social Security, but that is usually where the story ends. Unfortunately, while some things can be caught up on, others cannot. Time marches on, people become uninsurable, and decisions that would have been easy several years back become much harder at that point in time. This video will help you decide what needs to be done and when, starting about 10 years before retirement and working all the way up to the day you walk out the office for the last time. All right, let's get into it. But before you do, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. YouTube uses the number of likes in its algorithm to push a video to the top of the search results, and I want to help as many people as possible. All right, let's go. Let's start off with what to do 10 years out. If you don't have financial acumen, step number one is to meet with a financial advisor. Choose one that acts as your fiduciary. That means that they are legally obligated to act on your best interest, not theirs. And as an aside, approximately 1 out of 10 financial advisors are actually fiduciaries. So it's important that you ask the question. Also make sure that they fully understand Social Security. I will tell you this combination is rare, but asking the right questions will help you verify that the person you're talking to understands Social Security and is acting as your fiduciary. I will put a link at the end of this video to another video that I filmed on questions to ask a financial advisor. Next, get an estimate of where you stand today with Social Security when you retire in 10 years. If you've never been to SSA.gov, the first thing you should do is go to My Social Security Account. That is the best place to start. Once you enroll for the website, then you'll be able to access all of your Social Security information. Next, visit your HR department to make sure that you are maximizing your 401k contribution and any other type of retirement vehicle that is available to you. There are other types where you can contribute as well, but the one we'll talk about right now is your 401k, because after age 50, they allow you to increase your contribution. It's called a catch-up contribution. A 10-minute visit will help you beyond what is being deducted from your paycheck. And in fact, you'll want to know exactly how much is in your account, what type of returns you're receiving, where you're invested, and a whole host of other information. But the only way to really get into it is to know exactly what you have. So visit your HR department. Also, if you do have a 401k provider, oftentimes they come to the office once a year. It pays to meet with them when they come in, just so you can ask questions and more importantly, hear the other questions that are being asked of the 401k advisor. Next, start aggressively paying off your mortgage. Even an extra payment or two this year can take several years off of the back end of your mortgage. This is particularly true if you have a lot of years left on your mortgage. 10 years out, you should start having the real discussion with your spouse about retirement. I'm not talking about the dream discussion where you're both on vacation, but the real discussion. the one where you ask questions about, would you be okay not living near family? How do you feel about living in Florida versus Arizona? What do you like about Florida? What do you like about Arizona? What don't you like? Can you handle 95-degree weather in the middle of July? It's that conversation that needs to be had. This is called the warts and all discussion, because that discussion, you're discussing the good and the bad about retirement, in other words, retirement warts and all, with the decisions that you have in front of you. Until you've had the warts and all retirement discussion, you don't really have anything to work with. Now let's talk about what to do 5 years out. 5 years out, you'll need to start your retirement budget and start to migrate to that budget. Now, for the last 40 years of your life, you've lived a certain way. You are the head and are the head of the family. You pay for most things in most cases. And as you get closer and closer to retirement, your obligations start to shift. Also, what you do with your funds start to shift. You're no longer buying 5 plane tickets to Florida, you're buying 2. You're no longer vacationing at a 5-star hotel, you might be vacationing at a bed and breakfast. Migrating from one way to spend to another might seem like a daunting task, but the good news is that you don't have to do it all at one time because you're 5 years out. You just take one small step at a time, and by the time you hit the 5th year, you've migrated to your retirement budget spending. Next, when you're 5 years out, you should start building a cash reserve for 6, 12, maybe even 18 months worth of expenses. Now, some of you are saying, Jeff, I have a 401k, I have a pension, why do I need to build a cash reserve? Well, here's why. Imagine if you had retired at the beginning of 2022, and as you entered retirement, the world was starting to fall apart. Your 401k balance dropped between 15 and 20% during the year, and at the same time it was dropping, you were having to sell some of your assets to pay for your lifestyle. Selling assets during 2022 would have meant that you crystallized the losses, but if you had had a cash cushion, you could have weathered the storm a little bit better. 5 years out, it might be a good opportunity to discuss part-time work with your employer. Maybe you wouldn't do it in your 5th year or your 4th year or your 3rd year from retirement, but getting the idea out there as a discussion point might be useful. I will warn you though, with this point, that if your employer doesn't know that you're retiring in 5 years, it may come as a shock to them, and if that's the case, you might want to hold back on this discussion, because some employers get funny when they know that you're not going to be around at a certain point in time. 5 years out, also, if you have non-mortgage debt, meaning credit card debt for most of you, or a personal loan, something of that nature, now's the time to aggressively start paying off this ultra-high interest debt. The fact is, this is the most expensive debt. You don't want to go into retirement with debt, certainly not credit card debt. With 5 years left, you can pay down this debt, and you can do it in a low-impact way, so you won't necessarily feel it the way that you would feel it if you're trying to do it 3 years out, 2 years out, or 1 year out. Next, if you have a defined benefit plan, ask for estimates for 5 years out. This is something that should be relatively non-controversial because you aren't committing to taking the payment 5 years out, you're just understanding what your future may look like. Also, 5 years out, inquire about what happens to your deferred compensation. Make sure you understand the rules around this. I'm talking about deferred stock, for example, unvested stock options, and other assets that are given to you conditional on you working for a certain period of time. But like the comment I made around asking about working part-time, make sure that your company is conducive to this discussion, because for some of you, it's going to be a difficult discussion. If you're unsure, then maybe the best place to go is to ask a trusted friend who's already been through it and in retirement. Let's talk about what you should be doing 3 years out. 3 years out, you should have identified or largely identified where you might want to live in retirement. If it's your hometown, you're good. But if it's your hometown and it's not in your current house or your current apartment, then perhaps try to understand where it is you will be living in your hometown. If it's not your hometown, then you have some work to do, because frankly, you don't want to show up someplace and then suddenly realize that a year or two into retirement, you actually don't like living there too much. I call this the timeshare saga. For anybody who's ever owned a timeshare, you love it when you buy it, you love it when you go there for the first and even the second time, but about the third, fourth, or fifth time, your timeshare starts to become, shall we say, old. If you can work remotely from your possible retirement location, even better. Today, it's a lot easier to have that discussion than it would be maybe 5 years ago, for example. Also, start thinking about healthcare if you won't be eligible for Medicare when you retire. A lot of people don't wait until age 65, they retire early, only to find that they should have figured out what they're going to do about their health insurance. It could be your spouse's insurance, it could be a private insurance plan, but you do need to know the answer to the question because you can't go without health insurance in retirement. Let's talk about what to do 1 year out. If you're going to refinance or finance a loan, now is the time to do it. A lot of retirees will refinance their mortgage on their home if they have a mortgage and they want to get a lower rate. Hard to believe in this day and age that you could actually get a lower rate, but let's assume for a moment that that is possible. More likely, if you're buying a home in a different location, unless you're paying cash, you'll need a mortgage, at least temporarily, until you sell the current home that you're living in now. 4 months before retirement, and actually specifically 4 months before you draw Social Security, assuming that you do that when you enter retirement, you need to talk to the SSA and file the paperwork to start drawing your Social Security check. But I will point out, just for good measure, that a lot of retirees don't start taking Social Security right away. They let it build. If this is you, just remember the 4-month rule. 4 months before it's time to claim Social Security, you need to let the SSA know. Similarly, for Medicare, you need to file 3 months before you go on Medicare. At this point, if you haven't had the discussion, now's probably the time to let your employer know that you're going to be leaving your job. Again, this is situation by situation. Some people feel very uncomfortable letting their employer know because they think something bad's going to happen. Others have been there for such a long period of time that they feel obligated to let their employer know. But certainly if you're part of the second group and you think the employer is not going to do anything bad to you, like fire you or put you in a sidelined role for the last 3 months of your time at the firm, then let them know. Additionally, if you have a defined benefit plan, let the plan administrator know that you're going to be taking your benefits starting in 3 months. Factor in any end of career benefits like vacation days, personal days, and sick days, for example. Sometimes you can cash out your vacation days. Sometimes you need to take your vacation days, but understanding which is very important. Also, start compiling a list of people that you want to keep in touch with. Their name, their telephone number, their email address, and their mailing address as a starting point. If nothing else, you'll need that information for your farewell email, so you might as well start today because 3 months moves very, very quickly when you're approaching retirement. Also, if you only have a work email address, now would be a very good time to get a personal email address. Gmail has a good one, and if you have an Apple product, iCloud has a good one as well. On retirement day, close your eyes, take a deep breath, open your eyes, walk out, say goodbye to everybody, and head home. A new adventure is about to begin for you, and it is really exciting. If you have something else to add, just put it in the comment section below so that others can benefit from your wisdom. The people watching this video will be very happy to read what you have to say. Also, check out this video on 10 questions to ask a potential financial advisor. Finally, if you haven't done so already, please go to my website, holyschmidt.com/checklist to download your free retirement ready checklist. It's my gift to you. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.